Well, I have bad news and I also have some good news regarding the transfer portal class for Coach Rich Rodriguez and the West Virginia Mountaineers in 2025. And we're going to talk about that in this episode, which is brought to you by BetUS Online and Couz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner Attorneys at Law. And we're going to have that conversation right after this.
Since 1931, the attorneys at Couz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident, are fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Couz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com.
What is up? Welcome into another episode of Couz's Corner. You have landed yourself on the channel where in-depth analysis and fan passion meet as we talk about college football. So belly yourself up to the bar and let me pour you out this shot of top-shelf college football content where we do news and analysis on West Virginia, the Big 12, and conference realignment. In this episode, we're talking about West Virginia, and we're talking about their transfer portal class for 2025. Now, the fan base has been very excited. Majority of the fan base has anyway, been very excited about some of the commits Rich Rod's bringing in. I've been very excited about it. But there have also been a few fans on social media, and some of who have even reached out to me directly and said, Couz, you're being way too positive. We're bringing in way too many guys from lower levels. This is not a good transfer portal class. We're not doing as good as fans thought we would. So I said, you know what? Once we get at the end or near the end of this transfer portal window, I'll do a show on it and we'll compare. And that's what we're doing today in this episode. So real quick, I do want to talk about the last commit West Virginia got, William Reed. He committed yesterday, January 21st. He's an offensive lineman, stands 6'6", 305 pounds. He played at Princeton in the Ivy League, so we know he's smart. That's for sure. He's, rated as, I think, a 2-star or 3-star recruit, depending on which service you look at. But I think that 2-star rating is based on the fact he played at Princeton. Now, when you watch his tape, he flat out pancakes a lot of guys. He's a mauler. He's very, very good on tape. Now, is he going to be able to maul guys like that in the Big 12? I doubt it. But I do think he's going to be a good lineman nonetheless. He graded out in his run blocking, I think, at around 69.7, according to Pro Football Focus, for the 2024 season. So he can run block, and we know that that's about 65-70% of what Coach Rod's going to be doing. It's been reported that he's probably going to play a tackle position, and that was a position of need for this team. I do think he has a chance to come in and be a day one starter. He has a lot of experience. He's played over 1,000 snaps in his career. So I do expect he will be a starting lineman for this team. And if he's not a starter, he'll probably still play a lot of snaps. Whether he'll play right tackle, left tackle, that's all yet to be determined. We will see this fall. But I do think it's a good ad. It's one I'm excited about. He had offers from a lot of Power 4 schools. It came down to West Virginia and Georgia Tech, and he ultimately chose the Mountaineers. So welcome William Reed to West Virginia. He's from out west, from the state of Washington originally. So we want to welcome him to West Virginia and welcome him to Mountaineer Nation, and I have no doubt he will ball out and perform for this football team. But let's go ahead and talk about the entire class, transfer portal class so far. Again, they could go out and make ads, more ads, before spring practice starts. And let's not forget there's also another spring portal window, another transfer portal window in the spring too, and which obviously will just be more content to do. So let's go ahead and dig in, and let's start off with the good news. I said we've got good news and bad news. Let's start off with the good news here. And let's look at the Rivals rankings. I'm going to look at Rivals, 24/7, and On3. Those are the big major services who track these things. So we're going to talk about and see where West Virginia's numbers line up in each of these services, because they're the ones who do this the best, and I don't have time to go through and look at every team. So I'll let those guys do the work for me, and I'll just give my analysis on it. But let's look at Rivals. Rivals has West Virginia as the 6th rated transfer portal class in the country. Okay? 6th in the country in FBS. That's very good. That's the good news, right? West Virginia is bringing in, according to Rivals, they've brought in 30 commits. Now, they're not even counting William Reed yet. I don't think they've even added his name in yet, but they've brought in 30 commits. They're number 2 in the Big 12 in rating. I said they're 6th nationally. They're number 2 in the Big 12 behind UCF. Their average player score is 2.57. They have 1 4-star and 19 3-stars, according to Rivals, the 1 4-star being edge rusher Jamori Robinson, the transfer from UTSA. Now, I said there's positive. There's also some negative when you look at the Rivals numbers. Here are the negative. That average player score of 2.57 is 14th out of 16 teams in the Big 12. So I know what you're asking. Well, Couz, how in the world can they be rated 6th in the country and 2nd in the conference? Well, Rivals heavily rates the number of transfers you're bringing in. And West Virginia with 30 is one of the highest in the Big 12. Just to put some context around that. Who does Rivals have as the number 1 transfer portal class in the country? Marshall, because they've brought in 40 players. Their average player rating is not as good as West Virginia's, but they brought in 40 guys, so they have them rated as number 1. So Rivals heavily rates the number of players you're bringing in. Now, it's not that that's the wrong way to do it. It's just a different way to do it, okay? The other two services don't weight that quite as heavily. At least it doesn't appear. So, and Rivals does. So that's why West Virginia's rating is so high with Rivals. We need to put context around it. It's not because they're bringing in all these quote-unquote Power 4 studs. Now, they might be bringing in a lot of studs. We don't know that yet. We're not going to know till fall. I'm really happy with a lot of the players West Virginia's bringing in, but I also think there are a lot of these players out of 30 guys. There are going to be a lot of them that don't pan out. That's just the law of averages, right? All 30 players are not going to be studs, but if 15 of them are, or if 15 of them are really good players and contribute, then I think it's you've done a good job. And if you have out of those 15, if you have 2 or 3 that perform at a really high level, especially at key positions, then I think it's still a good class. So anyway, that's where Rivals sits. Let's go ahead and take a look at 24/7 and where West Virginia's class stacks up there. Before I do that, though, I do want to give a quick shout out to my other sponsor, BetUS Online. Right now, if you're looking for a brand new sports book, look no further than our good friends over at BetUS. You get a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit with promo code YouTube150. Again, promo code YouTube150 gets you a sign-up bonus of 150%. You get a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to a grand total of $2,000. Please remember that you must be 18 years of age or older to play. I ask that you do so responsibly if you do decide to play, and if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, I ask that you please call 1-800-GAMBLER for help. Now let's get back to the show. Let's go ahead and take a look at 24/7's rankings. Where do they have West Virginia? Well, when you look at 24/7, it's kind of a different story. They have West Virginia at number 40 nationally, 40, and 9th in the Big 12. They're 40th nationally, 9th in the Big 12, according to 24/7. And they have them with 29 3-star recruits, no 4-stars. They don't even have Jamoy Robinson as a 4-star. And apparently they have someone who's rated below a 3-star out of the 30 commits. And I didn't look to see who that was, by the way. I'm assuming it's probably the young man from a Division II school, because I think that matters. When you look at the grades, where the player went, plays a role in this. But the average player score for West Virginia at 24/7 is 85.21, the way they grade, which is 15th out of 16 teams in the Big 12. So they have them 9th overall, 15th in average player score. But so again, they also weighted the number of transfers. Not quite as heavily as Rivals did, but they did get them rated up higher because of the number of transfers they're bringing in. So that's where 24/7 has West Virginia in the transfer portal class. So what does On3 have? Now, On3, many consider On3 the first outlet to really track transfer portal players. I think they were really the first ones to put a system together, and they use an analytics system to do this. But where does On3 have West Virginia? Well, the story continues to get worse. They have West Virginia ranked 56th in the country. That's right, 56th in their transfer portal rankings for FBS schools, and 15th in the Big 12. So not good. But the positive to that is, though, they do have West Virginia with 2 4-stars. Both Jamoy Robinson and the defensive back Michael Coach Jr. are both listed as 4-stars at On3. They only have West Virginia, though, with 27 total commits. They haven't added their last 3 commitments to the class for whatever reason. I guess they're just a little bit behind, moving a little slower, but they have West Virginia 27 commits. Now, once they get that number up to the 30 or 31 that they actually have, maybe they will move West Virginia up some. But here's the thing that On3 does, and I don't know if Rivals and 24/7 does this or not because I didn't see it explained on their site. But On3 kind of explains it. They actually don't compare you to other teams. They look at the players you lost in the transfer portal and compare it to the players you added in the transfer portal, and they grade those against each other. And for West Virginia, the players that they brought in, they scored them at a total of 67.07 is what they graded them at. The talent level, average talent level of the players they brought in, 67.07. The players that transferred out of the program, the likes of C.J. Donaldson, Hudson Clement, Josiah Trotter, Trey Lathan, those guys, they graded out an average of 69.09. So 2.02 difference to the negative in the players that they lost versus the players they brought in as far as talent level. So now that's according to On3. So take that for what it's worth. I want to know what you think in the comments, but let me give you my thoughts real quick. You got to take all these numbers with a grain of salt. But when you look at these numbers and you see the differences in how they're rated across the different platforms, I think it just goes to show you that trying to grade transfer portal players is like catching fish in a barrel, as they used to say, or maybe some still say, or shooting fish in a barrel, whatever the metaphor is. You get it. It's like throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded. Who the heck knows, man? Because these players that are coming up from the lower level, and in some cases, West Virginia got guys who dominated and were all conference players at the lower level. So those guys could translate really well to the Power 4 level. But maybe some of them don't. Now, the guys who maybe weren't as dominant at their lower level, maybe they don't translate. And you're not going to know how these guys translate until they get on the field. So you kind of have to look at these rankings and take it with a grain of salt. And for those of us West Virginia fans who wanted Rich Rod back, I think most of us trust him and his judgment and his ability to evaluate talent. You look at past players he's had, like the Pat Whites of the world, like the Steve Slaytons of the world, the Owen Schmitz, just to name a few. And there have been a lot of other examples on both sides of the ball of players that were not considered. In Pat White, for example, most wanted him to play defensive back. Owen Schmidt was a walk-on originally. A lot of teams didn't want to take a chance on him. Steve Slayton had a scholarship offer pulled by James Franklin at the time at Maryland. He didn't think he was good enough. He ends up being a friggin' college football Hall of Famer. So Rich Rod saw something in him. He extended him a scholarship. So I trust his ability to evaluate talent. Now, one thing we do have to keep in mind, though, he's relying on his staff more than likely for a lot of these evaluations. He's not able to do it all himself. That's why they have a scouting team, a recruiting team, assistant coaches. They're all part of the equation here. So let's hope that the people Rich Rod hired to evaluate talent and scout talent know what the heck they're doing. And let's hope they prove people like Rivals right in that number 6 ranking nationally. But again, it's a crapshoot. I personally trust Rich Rod. I personally trust his staff. I think they'll be okay. Like I said earlier, not every guy is going to hit. You're going to have some misses, but I also think there are going to be some hits in this class. And I'm really excited about the class for the most part. Are there a few guys in the class I'm not as high on? Yes, there are. But that's the case with every class, no matter who the coach is, right? So, and there's another portal window in the spring where West Virginia will likely lose some guys and bring in some guys. So we got to do this all over again in the spring. What I do like about the class the most is the level of experience they're bringing in. They're bringing in a ton of guys who have only 1 year of eligibility remaining. So they're going to have some veterans on the football field. Now, again, many played at lower levels, but they've played a ton of snaps in college football, and I think that matters. They should be more physically prepared to handle the rigors of a Big 12 schedule. And the good thing about the 2025 season is they don't start off with Penn State or Pitt or a Power 4 team. They start off with Ohio and Robert Morris in the first 2 games. So they will have a couple games to get their feet wet, to get adjusted to the new system, to playing in the old gold and blue. Let me know what you think about this transfer portal class. Are you excited about it? Do you lean more towards the Rivals ranking being number 6, or do you lean more towards the On3 being 56th, or are you somewhere in the middle? I want to hear your thoughts on it. Also want to give a quick shout out to my VIP channel members of this episode. they're scrolling along the bottom there, but they are Todd Biela, Jack's son Clark, Browns and Beers, Shaq. Thank you all for being VIP members of the show. If you want to be a VIP member, be sure to hit the join button below or hit the join button on my channel homepage or in the description box. Also want to give a shout out to Cody Cutright, Okie King, and Matthew Sokos, WVU85. Thank you all for being paid VIP channel members here. Also want to remind you to please hit that thumbs up button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm, pumps my stuff out to more people. Please share it with your family and friends. Help me get to 10,000 subscribers here on the channel. And subscribe yourself if you haven't done so yet. Also, check out my basketball channel, Hoops from the Hills, where I cover West Virginia Mountaineer sports throughout the college basketball, or West Virginia Mountaineer basketball throughout the college basketball season. Again, it's Hoops from the Hills. And I do have a new website coming, so be on the lookout for that. In the process of getting that up and running now. It should be hopefully by around the 1st of March, late February, early March, maybe even earlier than that. We'll have a new website up and running. So hopefully it'll look better content over there. So be on the lookout for that. I really appreciate you tuning into this show. I hope the rest of your day is top shelf. And don't forget to cue country roads.